This is a development scheme of just under 1,500 homes that has stalled in the current conditions. And it's stalled partly because of the major infrastructure support that is required because of drainage systems underneath the site. We've been working with the government's Homes Accelerator programme to look at interventions. In particular, there's a large amount of social housing that can be brought through this scheme. There are 3 large tower blocks, 2 of which are being decommissioned. We want to bring those into the plan for the site so that we can replace those homes. And one of the things that we're lobbying government for is to get funding to replace existing stock.
Hello, I'm Toby Fox from 1.5 Million New Homes, the Local Government Challenge, sponsored by Redloft and Lovell. And I'm visiting a different council every month to find out what works and what needs to change to get more homes built. This month, I'm in the London Borough of Enfield, and I'm here in Edmonton to talk to Joanne Drew from Enfield Council about the council's strategic role in unlocking sites to bring more homes forward.
I'm Joanne Drew. I'm Executive Director of Housing and Regeneration at the London Borough of Enfield. Today we're here at Edmonton Green Shopping Centre, which is at the heart of a vibrant neighbourhood centre. The reason we're here is because this is a development scheme of just under 1,500 homes that has stalled in the current conditions. And it's stalled partly because of the major infrastructure support that is required because of drainage systems underneath the site. Now, that's a real challenge for us. We take our role as a local authority in terms of enabling housing development really seriously. So we are in complete support of this scheme progressing. So we want to and have been working with the developer to help create solutions to bring this scheme forward.
And what sort of options are there for doing that?
So we've been working with the government's Homes Accelerator programme to look at interventions. In particular, there's a large amount of social housing that can be brought through this scheme. So we want to support the delivery of that social housing. You'll see around the site that there are 3 large tower blocks, 2 of which are being decommissioned. We want to bring those into the plan for the site so that we can replace those homes. And one of the things that we're lobbying government for is to get funding to replace existing stock. The existing GLA funded programmes exclude net additional homes. So we really want to address that, because by incorporating the replacement of those homes in this site, we can then unlock further schemes across the road and estate regeneration schemes that we can decamp residents into. So it has a knock-on effect, not just the 1,500 homes, but a further 500 homes in short succession, if we can do that.
And that's a really good example of the council using its strategic kind of status and role in order to unlock more development. What's your exact role in all of that, and what do you see as the potential for Enfield Council in unlocking more?
So as the lead housing authority, my role and the role of my team is to take a big picture view about what type of housing we need in the borough. And how do we create the solutions to deliver that housing? And therefore, you know, we're a very pro-growth borough. So we stand squarely with all our partners in delivering that. So that's our developers, our landowners, our housing associations, our SME builders. And we work really closely with them to look at how they can be a part of creating the right housing we need. We're a direct deliverer of homes ourselves. Last year, we delivered 1,000 homes across all tenures in the borough. 2/3 of those were through the direct endeavours of the council, showing the real role of the public sector to stimulate and support wider growth.
So Joanne, we're over the road from Edmonton Green Station. This is clearly a site with a lot of potential. Talk us through how it works.
So the station goes straight into Liverpool Street, so less than 20 minutes, you're in the heart of London. So this development is perfect for build to rent, private sales and affordable housing together, make the perfect combination. So that's why we're really in support of the scheme. It's well connected from a bus perspective as well. And there's so much more we can do in the wider area to transform the wider place. There's fantastic green and open spaces that this development could unlock greater access to. So overall, the development will benefit the whole neighbourhood, but give a fantastic quality of life to the new residents.
So Joanne, you told us what you want to achieve and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
What's stopping you? What needs to change so that you can do that?
Okay, so obviously nobody in the development industry will talk to you about how to unlock issues without talking about the viability question. It's at the centre of unlocking most of the schemes that we face. We recognise though that nationally there's limited public funding and we have to work creatively with what we have.
Yep.
And we do have money in the system. So how we use that money more creatively in the current climate is really important. So we've had the recent announcement about the flexibility and right to buy receipts being able to be used with grant. That's great. Issues around deployment of Section 106 monies and seal monies in a more creative way to address viability gaps. That's another thing that we can look at. What I do want to talk about though is the planning system.
Okay.
The planners come in for a lot of criticism, and our planning team at Enfield are absolutely fantastic, and they've been on a journey of transformation over the last few years. And we have today a really pro-growth, pragmatic planning team. I think this week it's won the London Planning Team of the Year award, rightly so. Absolutely. And what you will find if you're a developer that wants to develop in our borough is a creative, solution-orientated approach to how to make development work. And also how, once you've got your permission, you can get on site as quickly as possible. We do recognise that that post-committee process can take some time. And we want people to be starting on site. We recognise that delivery in this parliament means starts from May 27. So our planning system is geared up to enable developers to do that. So we have the kind of planning system in place. We obviously have our local plan, which is scheduled and on track for approval next year. That gives the complete overarching planning framework for development in the borough.
So your planners are working really effectively within the planning system, but that system itself is undergoing some reform at the moment. The government's introducing a lot of change. Are you happy with those reforms and that they will accelerate housing delivery, or would you like to see more or different in planning reform?
I think the reform, we have to try new things. In Enfield, we're pragmatic. At the moment, delivery has almost ground to a halt other than council initiatives. So we have to be creative. We have to look differently about the planning reforms. And so we are in support of trying new approaches at a national level.
And you said that the council's delivered 1,000 homes.
Yeah.
Do you see that the council has capacity to do more? And what would you need in order for the council to deliver more?
So we have a rolling 3,500 homes programme that is funded through our housing revenue account. And we have the capacity for that.
And that's 3,500 over
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah. We can go further and faster with our changes and reform to the rent regime. In London, social housing rents are very low compared to the private rented sector, compared to the costs of delivery. So we are lobbying strongly for the rent restructuring that will enable us to charge slightly higher rents within the benefit safety net, but enabling us to have more capacity to put into the delivery of homes. Now, our residents tell us that meeting the needs of their families from a housing perspective is a key priority. So we think, and we've talked to our residents about this, nobody wants increases in their costs, but new homes are something that our residents are really in support of.
And how are you bringing them on that journey? I mean, what's your experience of working with residents in Enfield, generally in Edmonton in particular, around the sort of the story about change and development and growth and height and density and all those things that are a little bit difficult sometimes for people to accept?
So we work very closely with our residents on all plans for change. On our major regeneration scheme at Joyce and Snell's, we've got one of the highest turnouts and positive ballots in support of a high dense transformation of that area. So we know that we've got close connections, and the residents on the whole kind of trust the council to do the right thing in terms of development and meeting their needs. At a local level, like many other boroughs, we prioritise new homes for local residents first and foremost, so that they can see the benefits of that new development taking place. So prioritising local families to be able to stay in the communities is something that we care really passionately about, and I think that's shared by our residents, obviously.
Well, that works with social housing. I can see that works because you get the nominations, don't you? So you get to decide who gets which houses. When it comes to things like shared ownership and so on, do you find it's difficult because you're restricting the kind of market for the houses you're trying to sell, the houses that you're trying to sell into shared ownership as well? Is it not really restrictive, given that it's quite hard to sell homes at the moment?
It is hard to sell homes, but we do have a real pressing demand for first-time home ownership.
Yeah.
Cost of renting in London is huge, and when we look at shared ownership schemes, which we haven't done a lot in the last couple of years, I have to be honest, because the gross costs, the service charges can often be a challenge. So we work really closely at an early stage with the provider to make sure that overall shared ownership is likely to be affordable. On our current schemes where we've got sales, shared ownership is continuing to be sold, more positively than the private sales market that we've got at the moment. So I do think there's a future for shared ownership, but the product needs to be right.
We've talked about how you get things built. What happens when they're built? How do you maintain stock and housing for residents when costs are going through the roof and rents aren't increasing to anything like that level?
Absolutely. So maintaining our estates to a really good standard and our homes is an absolute priority for us as a landlord. That is a central plank to our corporate plan. Clean, green areas and communities for the benefit of all residents. So it's on the top of our member agenda, and that makes it top of our day-to-day agenda.
And you've got a high status now, right?
We have. We are completely compliant with the regulator of social housing's consumer standards. We're really pleased to have had that. We recognise that as a landlord, though, we've got much more to do to fulfil our overall ambitions of being the kind of landlord we want. And the reason why we want to be the best possible landlord is, as we are creating these mixed tenure developments, it's really important to us that as a local authority, we play a leading role in the ongoing management and maintenance of those estates. We don't want to see complicated, multiple management agent arrangements in place that ultimately restrict the ability of a resident to get things done.
Because they don't know who to talk to at any given time.
And it lacks coherence in terms of how you manage an overall place.
But that sounds great, but how do you actually make that happen? Because money is tight.
Money is tight, but we have a lean operation, but focused on the core priorities of what matters to residents. And as you grow your housing stock, clearly you increase your revenue. So that does help to contribute. So increased scale helps to contribute to a more effective management operation. So you can have more specialist activity. In Enfield, we're a big believer of bringing services in-house that we can deliver directly, because we found that we can be more responsive and more solution orientated at a faster pace in many areas. So and it's also quite cost effective to us. To get the right thing done first time is cheaper than perhaps a contracted model that isn't geared up to doing that. So overall, long-term management of place, I think, is more effective when you've got that right mix of direct delivered services along with your partners to support that.
Joanne Drew, thank you very much for playing your part in getting 1.5 million new homes built.
Great, thanks so much.
So that's it from another episode of 1.5 million new homes, the local government challenge, sponsored by Redloft and Lovell. We're going to be back in a few days with more from Enfield in North London. But until then, if you like what you've seen, please click like and subscribe. It really helps us if you do. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.